Hey guys, so hopefully everybody's having a good day so far. Amazing drop in volatility in the Bitcoin complex. I talked about this happening in a recent video. I said, look, this thing's going to probably start to pin around 100,000, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Just a reminder, everyone, of the disclaimer. So anything we talk about today is for educational, entertainment, and information purposes only. We bounced off 90, 91 there, which was good. And so now we've got this whole coin complex coming down. Look at the vol dropping from even from Friday down into today. We have a financed upside play in MSTR. And even though the stock isn't really doing much, we're up a whole bunch of money on it because that skew has collapsed, that volatility has collapsed a little bit more, a little flatter, I guess, than on the downside. We're seeing upsides start to push up a little bit, right? So people are starting to push in. Sometimes when you get vol dropping, you get the upside or the downside pushing up a little bit, right? You're going to see that with markets. They make all-time highs sometimes. And even though at the money and a lot of sort of nearer the money volatility gets compressed, they will not be as excited to push down out of the money. So we get a bit of a steeper move, especially to the downside in index. And so we're seeing kind of just a big drop in vol. I think we got up to around 220, 225 in MSTR, down to about 142 right now. So I mentioned in a recent video, I said the opportunity could very well be in waiting for that vol to kind of bottom out at some point and then playing something from the long volatility side of things, right? Long option structures of some kind. But for now, we're going to keep sort of making a little bit of money here. We do better if we run up into kind of that 425 to 450 range on MSTR. So we'll have to see if that happens. We're going to need another run to 100 on coin. So a little bit of hopscotch going on. Coin's doing okay. Some of the other ones, Mara's pulling back a little bit. And some of the secondary names like Hood and SoFi, kind of, sort of neither here nor there. Hood doing well. That's one of my favorite names. I've loved it since about 20 bucks, and it's starting to push 40. So we're going to be looking at another structure there as well soon. So let's take a look and see what are markets doing today. So we've got the S&P pushing to all-time highs again. I think we run into a little bit of trouble. This is SPX just under 60.50. We've got that giant JPM call there at 60.50. So I think we have a little bit of trouble getting through 60.50 towards 60.75. I think that acts as a little bit of resistance, as I mentioned last time. So I'm not feeling too bad about our iron condor here. It's sitting right smack dab in the middle. You recall that I set that up bullishly because of this move that I expected. And of course, it's short Vega. So we're seeing Vega come in a little bit over the last week. VIX popping a little bit today, but to be honest, that is a little bit of weekend effects. You'd probably expect VIX to kind of jump up around 75 to a buck today, and it's only up 18 or 0.18 today. That to me tells me that volatility is continuing to drop. So people are not excited about playing any kind of long volatility game at this point. They don't see a lot happening in markets at this point. And I think that's probably accurate. We have a lot of data coming out this week. So that can always impact things. But and then, of course, a lot of employment data, which is very key. But I think from the employment side, we have to remember that Powell, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I said he sort of moved back towards this dual mandate. Remember, he kind of talked about how employment was going to be sort of the main game at this point. He sort of said, okay, let's hold on a sec. The economy's pretty strong. Let's just not get too crazy on gigantic numbers of rate cuts. But I think that they are coming, right? I think he's looking for any reason to cut rates. So I think they are still coming, and I think that can actually give some of a tailwind. We're seeing MAG perform well today, but I think that sort of puts the Dow, it puts IWM still in a very, very constructive position. So those are kinds of areas that I'm looking for. Of course, we've got some MAG plays that are doing well. Amazon, one of my favorites, pushing up again today. I think it outpaces itself over the Walmarts of the world because it's just in all the right places. It's in digital, it's in physical, it's rewriting the game of logistics. It just does everything so fantastically well. So I'm still liking that name. Our play there is doing extremely well. Let's take a look at a couple of more names here. I think that TLT is actually very, very important to us. Look at that. We're pushing up towards 94 after hitting the low 93s today. I think this is a very important picture here, right? Because, it kind of relates back to this dual mandate that I talked about. If we are going to get a lower rate environment, and I think we are, we may not get 250 basis points of cuts, but we're going to get probably lower rates, and that's going to be good for TLT. That's going to be good for some of the shorter term yield measures. The 10-year yield we've seen pull back quite a bit recently, and I think that's a positive for markets, right? Markets don't want those extremes. They don't want inflation. They don't want overheating economies. They like things to be kind of lukewarm. So they kind of like the fact that the Fed is going, oh, okay, let's just watch things a little bit more carefully, which means the porridge is warm and everything's okay again. So I'd like to see TLT stabilize here. I do not want to see it drop down towards 90 again. I like what I'm seeing today very much, and that is very positive for markets. So that could be a little bit of a challenge to our condor. We're going to have to watch for that as things kind of progress this week. We may be entering into dollar and dollar markets. It's going to be very dangerous for shorts. Do not short a dull market. So if you're shorting this market, I don't know, you might want to rethink that, because unless we get some sort of grenade going off, I can still see a compression of vol, an inching up of markets, if we can get through those sort of 60, 50, 60, 75 levels on the S&P. But I think that the table's kind of clear for some of the more broader market type areas to do well. I don't think this mag has a ton of room at this point to the upside. Microsoft starting to look a little bit interesting. My favorite Meta is looking good again. NVIDIA, I think, probably has a little bit of trouble here. And if it does, I think that kind of keeps a bit of a lid on mag. And we can continue to look to other interesting things, right? So we've had great wins on Domino's Pizza. I'm looking at some of the home builders. Those ones, I think they win rates high, rates low. I don't think it matters too much for them, because they kind of dictate what happens. Maybe not as good if rates come down aggressively, but if they come down a little, that's probably a positive for them. And all sorts of other fun things. We've got Fortinet, looking at a cash machine trade there. Looking at Visa is always one of my favorite names in the world. We've got ASML. We've sold a credit spread there, so I think that's going to be a great stock. I think that thing is set up for a recovery over the next few months. Alta 390 looking fantastic again. We've got a position there. And what else have we got? Reddit doing great. Shack we got out of. I don't want to be left behind on it, so I might look into that again, as well as Palo Alto. So lots of fun things going on, and I'll see you guys in the next video.